Lesson 1. Food Safety Basics. Introduction. In this lesson, you'll learn more about the importance of food safety, how foods become unsafe, time temperature control for safety, or TCS foods, major food allergens, and your role as a food handler. The importance of food safety. Think about a restaurant where you recently ate or worked. Was the hot food hot and the cold food cold? Did the server have clean hands? Was there soap and paper towels in the bathroom? Was there trash on the floors? Were the tables, equipment, and counters clean? Any place where food is prepared and served to the public must follow certain food handling practices and be kept clean. Why? Because a person can become sick if they eat food that was not handled and prepared the right way. The public also includes your friends and family, so food safety is important for everyone. Food safety is important to everyone. Whether you work in a restaurant, grocery store, or any other type of food establishment, the place where you work has to be kept clean and well maintained. This creates a safe environment for preparing and serving food. Why is food safety important? To you, because unsafe food practices can affect your health as well as the health of those you are serving. To the public, because no one should worry about getting sick from going out to eat. To your customers, because it's their health and safety at risk. To your fellow workers, because it protects their jobs and their safety. To your employers, because a clean, safe environment helps them stay in business. Please note, food prepared at home or in an unlicensed food establishment cannot be sold to the public without prior approval by your local health department. How foods become unsafe. Clean is not the same as safe. Hands can look clean, but can be contaminated with microorganisms that cause foodborne illness. Food may look and smell good, but the germs present could make it unsafe to eat. This is why all food workers must learn how to prevent illness with safe food preparation and service. These safe habits will keep you and your customers healthy. You can't always see or smell that food is contaminated. That's why it is very important to avoid the conditions that can make food unsafe. View each section below for more information about food dangers. Contamination. Contamination occurs when food contains bacteria, parasites, viruses, or other microorganisms that grow and produce natural poisons, chemicals such as cleaners or insecticides, and foreign objects such as glass or bits of packaging accidentally mixed into food. Cost of foodborne illness. Loss of customers and revenue. Loss of business reputation. Lawsuits. Costs and negative publicity. Reduced employee productivity. Medical costs for pain and suffering. Employee absences. And cost for retraining employees. Cross-contamination. When microorganisms spread between food, surfaces, or equipment, it's most likely to happen when raw food touches or drips onto other food, raw food touches or drips onto equipment or surfaces, unclean utensils, glassware, or dishware are used, unclean work surfaces are used, and cooked food is touched with unwashed hands. Foodborne disease outbreak. An incident in which two or more people experience the same illness after eating the same food. Disease-causing microorganisms are responsible for the majority of foodborne disease outbreaks. Foodborne illness. An illness resulting from eating contaminated food. Foodborne illness is caused by microorganisms, natural toxins, or chemicals. Food contaminated with microorganisms or natural toxins does not look, smell, or taste different from uncontaminated food. Symptoms vary and may include diarrhea, vomiting, fever, cramping, and nausea. Depending on the cause, symptoms may develop in a few minutes to several days. Symptoms lasting several days can result in death. Time temperature control for safety, or TCS foods. All food should be handled safely, but some have a greater risk of causing illness. Time temperature control for safety, or TCS foods, are foods that require time and/or temperature control to limit the rapid growth of bacteria. This means TCS foods should be stored at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below, cooked to the required minimum internal temperature, and maintained at a temperature of 135 degrees Fahrenheit or above when placed in equipment for hot holding previously cooked TCS foods. TCS foods are typically derived from animals and cooked vegetables, but include many other high protein and high moisture foods. Pay special attention to these TCS foods: fresh eggs and egg products, dairy products, tofu, packaged soy protein foods, meat and poultry, fish and shellfish, cooked beans, rice, and potatoes, cooked vegetables, oils containing herbs, garlic, or other flavorings, sprouts, cut fruit and vegetables such as melons, tomatoes, and lettuce. What are food allergens? Food allergies have been reported to affect up to 20 million Americans, including approximately 4 million children. That represents approximately 6% of adults and children in the United States who suffer from food allergies. A food allergy reaction is an immune system response to food the body mistakenly believes is harmful. Symptoms of allergic reaction. Reactions can be unpredictable. Some occur slowly and some quickly, depending on the types of white blood cells involved. Typically, symptoms appear from within a few minutes to 2 hours after a person has eaten the food to which he or she is allergic. The most common immediate symptoms are hives, flushed skin or rash, tingling or itchy sensation in the mouth, face, tongue, or lip swelling, vomiting and/or diarrhea, abdominal cramps, coughing or wheezing, dizziness, lightheadedness, swelling of the throat and vocal cords, difficulty breathing, or loss of consciousness. At present, there is no cure for food allergies. Therefore, a consumer with food allergies must avoid the foods to which they are allergic. Major food allergens. While there are over 160 known sources of food allergens, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, has identified the major food allergens that account for approximately 90% of serious reactions. Consumption of these major food allergens by affected individuals is the most likely to result in severe or life-threatening allergic reactions. The 9 major food allergens identified by the FDA are milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, like shrimp, mussels, lobsters, crabs, and oysters, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, soybeans, and sesame. The FDA requires that foods containing these foods must include them on the food label. The label must include the common or usual name of an ingredient that is a major food allergen. These requirements apply to packaged and bulk foods. If a guest has an allergic reaction, notify management and call 911 immediately. Preventing allergic reactions. Food allergies can be a matter of life and death. If you ever suspect someone is having an allergic reaction, call 911, inform your manager, and make sure to stay with the person until help arrives. Let's go over several actions you can take to help customers avoid accidentally being exposed to food allergens. Communicating with customers. Communicating with customers about their dietary needs is critical in helping to prevent allergic reactions. At the earliest point of contact with the customer, booking if your restaurant takes reservations, and at various other times, such as greeting, delivering menus, and taking the order, you should ask your customers about any food restrictions, especially allergies. In addition, information on menus about major allergens in particular dishes and also ingredient lists are very helpful and should be pointed out to customers. These 4 R's can help you deal with customers' dietary needs. Refer guest food allergy concerns to the person in charge, manager, or chef. Review the food allergy with the guest and check ingredient labels and menu items. Remember to check for cross-contact during food preparation. And respond to the guest and inform them of your findings. Cross-contact. Cross-contact is the inadvertent transfer of an allergen from one food to another. As a result, each food contains small, often invisible and tiny, amounts of the other food, potentially causing adverse reactions in people with food allergies. In these cases, proper cooking doesn't remove the threat. There are many points during food handling at which you need to take precautions to prevent cross-contact. 1. When receiving food, inspect to ensure that the food is clean, packaging is undamaged, and foreign material has not been introduced. 2. Store foods in such a way to prevent accidental cross-contact through spillage. 3. Put unused foods away promptly and ensure the containers are fully closed. 4. During preparation, ensure cleanliness of workstations and utensils of potential allergens. 5. During service, keep allergen-free dishes separate from other dishes. Cleaning. To ensure that utensils, pots, and pans are free of allergens, run them through a normal dishwasher cycle or wash them by hand with hot, soapy water and scrub the surfaces thoroughly. Once the food contact surface has been cleaned, it must be sanitized with heat or a chemical solution. Rinse thoroughly and allow to air dry. Avoid just wiping down a surface, knife, or common utensil with a rag after touching an allergen, a common practice at many food establishments. For workstations and self-service areas, use a commercial detergent or apply a spray-on detergent and vigorously wipe the area that has come into contact with the allergen. Wiping away visible crumbs or residue is not sufficient, as allergens may not be visible to the naked eye. As you are already aware, hand washing is also a critical practice for food safety. Follow all the recommended hand washing and glove use procedures addressed in this course. Preparing and serving food. When preparing dishes that need to be allergen-free, clean the workspace, utensils, pots, and pans to prevent cross-contact. Ideally, separate equipment will be available to cook for customers with food allergies. Once the allergen-sensitive customer's meal is ready, it should be served according to a plan that is in place to prevent cross-contact during service. Servers should deliver allergen-sensitive meals separately to avoid cross-contact with plates containing foods with allergens. Use of color coding or some other indicator on specially prepared dishes can be a good way to signal servers to take particular care in their delivery. Your role as a food handler. You must recognize and prevent situations that can lead to foodborne illness. The 5 major causes of foodborne illness are poor personal hygiene, using contaminated equipment, food employees working when they are ill, using food from unsafe sources, and not maintaining proper food temperatures. The activities that prevent foodborne illness are following hand washing instructions, working only when healthy, storing and handling of food in a way that prevents contamination, cooking raw food to its required final cooking temperature, keeping hot food hot and cold food cold, and using only clean and sanitized dishes, utensils, and other items. Always ask your manager if you are unsure about the safety of a food service activity. Lesson 2. Personal Hygiene. Introduction. In this lesson, you'll learn more about why personal hygiene is important, how and when to wash your hands the right way, the importance of personal grooming, the proper use of gloves, hand sanitizers, and aprons, clothing and jewelry restrictions, when to wear hair restraints. Start to food safety. Food safety begins with maintaining high standards of personal hygiene and cleanliness. A food handler's lack of personal hygiene can cause food to become contaminated and may result in customers becoming ill. Customers prefer to eat at places where employees practice good hygiene and put food safety first. Put yourself in the consumer's place and observe your coworkers' food handling practices. Would you want to eat here? Personal hygiene means keeping yourself clean and healthy. The human body carries germs that can contaminate the food that customers eat or the surfaces they touch. By practicing the personal hygiene habits taught in this section, you can protect yourself from being the cause of foodborne illness. Good personal hygiene is not only important to your customers and your employer, it's the law. Washing your hands. Washing your hands well is one of the most important parts of employee hygiene. It sounds too easy, but hand washing really works to wash away germs. Not washing your hands correctly can increase the spread of infectious diseases, causing people to become sick. Hand washing is one of the most important steps in food safety and is required by law. Before. Wash your hands before going on duty, before you touch anything used to prepare food, before putting on gloves, before touching utensils that will touch food, and before touching foods that will not be cooked. After. Wash your hands after handling raw food, especially meats, fish, and poultry, after handling eggs, after touching your face, hair, or any other part of your body, after handling trash and taking out the garbage, after handling dirty dishes, after cleaning or using other toxic substances, and after removing single-use gloves. Double wash rule. After using the restroom or after just going into the restroom, you must wash your hands in the restroom and then again upon returning to the kitchen before handling food. This is called the double wash rule. Think and then use the sink. The previous hand washing lists are not the only times to wash your hands. Knowing when to wash requires common sense on your part. Did you shake hands with a customer? Did you handle money? Wash your hands. Proper hand washing. Your kitchen should have a hand washing sink with warm water, soap, and paper towels. Make sure to always wash your hands at a hand washing sink and not at a food preparation sink. Germs such as bacteria and viruses grow easily, so think of your hands and fingernails as always contaminated. Just because they look clean does not mean they are clean. Germs are too tiny to see with your eyes. If you do not wash your hands in the right way, and if you do not keep your fingernails trimmed short, your hands can transfer germs to food, which gets eaten by your customers. They may get sick from these germs. This is called foodborne illness or food poisoning. Remember, soap and hot water will wash away germs. If the water is not hot or hand washing supplies are not available, tell your supervisor immediately. How to wash your hands. Wet your hands and forearms with warm running water and apply soap. Spend at least 20 seconds total time washing your hands. Rub your hands together, scrubbing hands and forearms for a minimum of 10 to 15 seconds. Use a nail brush to clean thoroughly under your fingernails. Scrubbing your nails is necessary for your hands to be clean. Rinse your hands and forearms completely under warm running water. Dry your hands thoroughly with a single-use towel, paper or cloth roll, or an air dryer. Do not use a shared towel. If washing your hands in the restroom, use a clean paper towel to open the door if needed. Don't touch the door handle or you may recontaminate your hands. Do not use hand lotion. It may allow bacteria to grow. Single-use gloves can also spread germs. Wash your hands before putting on gloves and change gloves between tasks, such as switching from handling one type of food to another. If your gloves become torn or overly soiled, make sure to wash your hands before donning a new pair. Remember to always wash your hands. Gloves and aprons. Gloves and sanitizers do not replace hand washing. Gloves and aprons are important protective articles that you will use working in a food establishment. Here's how to use them correctly. Wash hands and exposed portions of your arms before putting on gloves and again after removing them. Wash hands and exposed portion of your arms before applying a hand sanitizer. When gloves are damaged or when you change tasks, take off the old gloves, wash your hands and arms, and put on fresh gloves. Take off your apron before leaving the kitchen or food preparation area. Change to a fresh apron if it gets dirty. Wash your hands after touching your apron. Change to a fresh apron or fresh pair of gloves if they get dirty. Bare hand contact. Infected food employees are the source of contamination in more than 2/3 of the reported foodborne disease outbreaks. Most of these outbreaks were caused by employees who failed to properly wash their hands after using the restroom. Diseases can spread to food because of poor hand washing. Infected cuts, burns, or boils on hands can also cause food to become unsafe. Food regulations require 2 methods of preventing the spread of foodborne disease: not allowing workers to prepare food when they are infectious, and thorough and frequent hand washing. Avoid touching ready-to-eat or RTE foods with your bare hands. RTE foods are ones that require no further cooking to be served. Use utensils such as spatulas, tongs, wax paper, or single-use gloves. Anything else must be approved by your manager and the health department. Preventing contamination. Food employees are allowed to contact RTE food with their bare hands if the establishment does not serve a highly susceptible population and the following requirements are met. Step 1. Training. Food workers must acknowledge receiving training on the following: proper hand washing, when and where to wash, proper fingernail maintenance, risks of bare hand contact, good hygienic practices, employee health policies, jewelry prohibition, double hand washing, nail brushing, hand antiseptic after washing, incentive programs, and other methods approved by the regulatory authority. How to comply. Signed statements kept at the food establishment. Step 2. Control measures. Food workers must use 2 or more control measures, including double hand washing, nail brushing, hand antiseptic after washing, or other methods approved by the regulatory authority. How to comply. Written plan kept at the food establishment. Step 3. Corrective actions. How to comply. Written records of who, what, when, where, and how corrections are made. Personal grooming. Take care of how you look and act. You want to look clean and be clean when you are at work. Your clothes must be clean, and your apron or uniform should be fresh. Keep your hair clean and neat. For your safety, wear it close to your head, tied back, and in a net or under a hat. Bathe yourself every day, especially work days. Wear clean clothes to work daily. Keep hair clean and under control. Use a hair restraint if necessary. Keep fingernails clean and short. It is recommended that you do not wear nail polish or false fingernails, which may contaminate food. If you do wear fingernail polish, your hands must be covered with a single-use glove when working with food. The only jewelry you are allowed to wear in food preparation areas is a plain ring, such as a wedding band. Bracelets and other types of rings may hold dirt or bacteria that could come into contact with food. Jewelry can cause injury if it gets caught in equipment. Do not use cosmetics or perfume or cologne around foods, as they may contaminate food. And change clothes if they become dirty. Personal behaviors. While working, food service personnel must not eat, drink, or smoke in any food preparation or storage areas. Smoke, eat, or drink only in designated areas. Smoke only in areas where there is no risk of contaminating food. Do not smoke or chew tobacco while you are working or when you are near food or dishwashing areas. Do not eat, chew gum, or use tobacco products on duty. Use them only in assigned break areas. After you smoke, wash your hands before you return to work. Do not sit or lean on countertops, tables, equipment, or other surfaces where food is prepared or served. Need to cough or sneeze? Step away from food, utensils, and/or equipment. Cough or sneeze into the crook of your elbow. You may also cough or sneeze into your shoulder, or cover your mouth and nose with a tissue or your hand. After coughing or sneezing, properly wash your hands. Personal food and drink items are not allowed in food preparation areas, apart from beverages that are in a closed container designed to prevent contamination of the employee's hands, exposed food, clean equipment, and the container itself. Most establishments and health departments discourage having beverages in the food preparation area. For safety's sake, the best practice is to keep food and drink limited to designated break areas. For those employees working in an area where there is excessive heat, such as the grill area, and if your employer allows it, use a container with a lid and straw. On the cook line, use a container with a lid, straw, and handle. Note: most health departments require beverage containers in food preparation areas to be designed to prevent contamination of the food handler's hands. This typically means a non-breakable container with a lid and straw. Be sure to check with your local health department to learn what kind of beverage containers are permitted. Restricted areas. Animals. Food employees may not handle or care for animals while on duty. Animals are not permitted on the restaurant premises with the exception of support animals for the disabled and police patrol dogs when necessary for work purposes. This exception also applies to food service employees who require the use of a support animal. It is also acceptable for employees to take care of fish or molluscan shellfish in display tanks. When returning to food handling, the employee must properly wash his or her hands. If you are providing food or water to an animal in a patio or outdoor sitting area, make sure to use a single-service item. Other. Only employees who are on duty and assigned to the operation of the kitchen are allowed in the food preparation, storage, or dishwashing areas. It is management's responsibility to exclude visitors from entering the kitchen, except in cases where a supervised brief visit or tour is given. Doors to food preparation areas should be self-closing. Never leave them propped open. Delivery drivers, repair persons, and pesticide applicators are in compliance with this code. Children are not permitted in food preparation, storage, or dishwashing areas. Small hands carry germs, and busy kitchens can be dangerous. Lesson 3. Receiving and Storing Food. Introduction. In this lesson, you'll learn more about the importance of inspecting foods before accepting delivery, and what to look for when inspecting food deliveries. Food deliveries. You want all the food in your store or restaurant to be healthy and safe right from the start. In order for food to remain safe, it has to arrive safe. The receiving station is your first, last, and only chance to catch unsafe food before it ends up in your kitchen. Before accepting delivery, look at the storage area of the delivery truck. Is it clean? Reject products past their expiration date. Reject products that will expire before they can be used. Look for signs of spoilage. Look for signs of physical contamination. Watch for damaged or previously opened containers. Measure food temperatures by pressing a thermometer against the item packaging and reject food that are not at their correct temperature. Besides the risk of foodborne illness, accepting unsafe food is costly to your employer, who will be stuck paying for something that has to be thrown out. Note: also look for large ice crystals on frozen food, as this is a sign that the food has thawed and refrozen. Keeping delivered food safe. Use food that comes from sources that are approved by the health department. That is the law. Look for USDA on meats. Look for pasteurized on milk. Look for certification tags on packages of shellfish and save the shell stock tags for 90 days. Discard dead shellfish or shell stock with badly broken shells. Canned foods, fresh foods, egg and dairy products must come from companies, brokers, or dairies that have been licensed and inspected. Ready-to-eat foods need to be inspected as fresh foods would. A ready-to-eat food is any food that is edible without further washing or cooking. It includes washed fruit and vegetables, deli meats, and bakery items. Remember that properly cooked food items are also considered ready to eat, even if it is a TCS food. Good food needs good storage. Maintain a clean, uncluttered, and well-lit delivery station. Move delivered foods immediately to proper storage. Don't let them sit out in the temperature danger zone, between 41 degrees Fahrenheit to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Tell your supervisor if you feel too rushed to make an adequate inspection. Food must be delivered in a smooth, washable container that can be easily cleaned. Everything in its place. Every food should have a proper place. Store each food at the proper temperature. If you take food out to use it, return it promptly to its correct place. Store food in clean wrappers or securely closed containers. Do not store foods on the ground or against walls. Avoid overloading shelves. In the refrigerator, store raw foods below ready-to-eat foods. In fact, keep them as far apart as possible. If there is not enough room in the refrigerator to cool a TCS food, move some of the food that is already cold into a separate refrigerator, if possible. Arrange food so that the product that came in first is used first. This is known as FIFO, or first in, first out. Keep storage areas, racks, trays, and carts clean and dry. In dry storage, keep products away from sunlight, pipes, and refrigeration lines. Onions and other strong-smelling foods should be kept away from eggs and dairy products. Whole shell eggs can be stored at a maximum temperature of 45 degrees Fahrenheit. They are the eggception. Liquid eggs should always be refrigerated. Refrigerate dry goods once they are mixed with liquids. Certain ready-to-eat foods, like fresh fruit, do not need to be refrigerated. The food in the refrigerator is required to be kept at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder. This helps keep food safe by slowing the growth of bacteria. Storing foods in a refrigerator. Listed below are the required cooking temperatures, if any, for different types of food. These cooking temperatures correspond to the storage order of certain raw foods in a refrigerator. Whichever food has the highest minimum internal cooking temperature will be stored on the lowest spot in the refrigerator. This will ensure that even if a raw food is contaminated by a different type of raw food stored above it in a refrigerator, it will still be cooked to a high enough temperature for the food to be considered safe. Starting at the top of the refrigerator, we have ready-to-eat foods and washed produce. Below that will be fresh eggs, whole intact muscle of beef, pork, and fish. Even lower, we have ground meat and eggs not prepared for immediate service. And on the bottom, we have poultry. Inspecting meats. When inspecting a shipment of beef, accept the shipment if the beef has a bright red color, a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, and a firm texture that springs back to the touch. Reject the shipment if it has a bad color, meaning brown or green looking, purple blotches, green, white, or black spots. If it has a bad texture, sticky, slimy, or dry. If it has an objectionable smell, or if it is in damaged or dirty packaging. When inspecting a shipment of pork, accept the shipment if the pork has a pink and lean color and white fat. If it arrived at a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, and it is firm texture that springs back to the touch. Reject the shipment if it has a bad color, meaning brown or green looking, purple blotches, green, white, or black spots, a bad texture, sticky, slimy, or dry, an objectionable smell, or damaged or dirty packaging. When inspecting shipments of lamb, accept the shipment if it has a light red color, a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, and a firm texture that springs back to the touch. Reject the shipment if it has a bad color, meaning brown or green looking, purple blotches, green, white, or black spots, a bad texture, sticky, slimy, or dry, an objectionable smell, or arrived in damaged or dirty packaging. When inspecting shipments of poultry, accept the shipment if it arrives at a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, has fresh, even coloration, and a firm, springy texture. Reject the shipment if it has a purple or green color, a greenish discoloration at the neck, dark wingtips, a soft texture or a stickiness under the wings and joints, an objectionable smell, or if it arrived in damaged or dirty packaging. Inspecting produce. Fresh fruits and vegetables should not show signs of mold, spoilage, or insects. To prevent bruising or contamination, avoid squeezing or handling whenever possible. Inspecting dairy. When inspecting a delivery of milk, make sure to check that it is pasteurized, grade A, within the expiration date, and in clean, undamaged packaging. When inspecting a delivery of cheese, make sure that the rind or the wax wrapping or packaging is clean and intact, and that it has an acceptable flavor and texture. When inspecting delivery of butter, make sure that it has no objectionable smell, that there is an absence of mold or dirt, and it is received at a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less. Inspecting egg products. When inspecting a delivery of shell eggs, make sure that they are delivered refrigerated, immediately placed in refrigerated equipment that maintains food at 45 degrees Fahrenheit or less, that the shells are clean, unbroken, and free of cracks or chips, and that they are grade AA or grade A, and the cartons display the U.S. Department of Agriculture or USDA logo. When inspecting a delivery of liquid eggs, make sure they are received at a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, that they are within their expiration date, and that the packaging is intact. When inspecting a delivery of frozen eggs, make sure they are received at a temperature of 0 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, that they are within their expiration date, and the packaging is intact. When inspecting a delivery of dry eggs, make sure that they are within their expiration date and that the packaging is intact. Inspecting seafood. When inspecting a shipment of fish, accept the shipment if it is received at a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. It is packed in self-draining ice. It has a fresh odor and not fishy. The fish have clear, bright eyes, and it has firm, textured flesh that is springy to the touch. Reject the shipment of fish if the gills are dry and gray or grayish-green, if it has cloudy, sunken eyes or red-bordered eyes, if it has soft flesh that does not spring back when touched, or if it has an objectionable ammonia-like smell. When inspecting a delivery of lobster, accept the delivery if the temperature is at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower for live product, or 0 degrees Fahrenheit for frozen, that they are alive at delivery, and that there is a hard, heavy shell on the lobsters. Reject the shipment of lobster if the shells are soft, or if there is a strong, objectionable smell. When inspecting a delivery of shellfish, accept the delivery if they are received at a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower for live product, or 0 degrees Fahrenheit for frozen product, that the shells are tightly closed, that the product is alive, and that it was shipped with shell stock tag containing delivery information. Reject the shipment of shellfish if the shells are open and will not close when tapped. This is a sign that the clam or oyster is dead. If there is a strong, objectionable smell, or if there are missing shell stock tags. Inspecting packaged goods. When inspecting a delivery of frozen foods, accept the delivery if it is received at a temperature of 0 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Ice cream should be received at a temperature between 6 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Reject the shipment if there are cartons that are misshapen or damaged, if there are products surrounded by large ice crystals, or if cartons contain fluid or frozen liquid. When inspecting a shipment of modified atmosphere packaged food, accept the shipment if it is received at the correct temperature as listed on the package. Reject the shipment if it is in flawed or damaged packaging, or if the product is beyond the expiration date. When inspecting a shipment of canned foods, accept the shipment if there are undamaged cans with no signs of dents or swelling. Reject the shipment of canned foods if they are missing labels or there's rust, if they have swollen tops or bottoms, if there are leaks, or if there are dents or flaws, especially on seams. When inspecting a shipment of vacuum-sealed foods, accept the shipment if it is received at the correct temperature as listed on the package. Reject the shipment if there is flawed or damaged packaging, or if the product is beyond the expiration date. When inspecting shipments of dry goods, accept the shipment if there are no visible signs of damage to the packaging. Reject the shipment of dry goods if there is torn, damp, or damaged packaging, or if it is an insect-infested product. Self-service areas. To avoid cross-contamination, take used plates from customers coming back for seconds and give them clean plates instead. The only items that can be reused in a self-serve area are beverage cups. Make sure that food guards are in place to protect food from people sneezing or coughing. Immediately replace utensils that have been dropped, touched, or coughed on. Also, replace any food that has come into contact with those utensils. Between uses on the serving line, utensils used for dispensing food can be placed directly in the food, with the handle sticking out. Monitor temperatures of foods in hot and cold holding. Single-service items. Styrofoam cups, plastic utensils, and other items meant to be thrown away after one use are considered single-service items. They should be stored unopened and off the floor. Wash your hands before unwrapping single-service items. To avoid contamination in the dining area, avoid touching anything that will come into contact with the customer's mouth. Hold cups by the bottom or the handle, not the rim. Hold plates underneath or on the edges, not with fingers extending onto the rim. Hold utensils by the handle, not the eating end. Use a non-breakable utensil with a handle, not a cup or bowl, to scoop ice for water glasses. Use tongs to serve finger foods such as breads. Do not reuse breads, sauces, and other unwrapped or prepared foods that have been served to customers. Additionally, community dipping containers can spread foodborne illness. It's a good idea to give each customer their own container for dipping. In fact, the state of California requires this. Lesson 4. The Danger Zone. Introduction. In this lesson, you'll learn more about how bacteria grow most quickly in the temperature range between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit, known as the danger zone. How to hold foods at the proper temperature. The different kinds of thermometers. And how and when to measure temperature. The danger zone. To be prepared, cooked, and served, food must enter the temperature range between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. This is where bacteria grow the best. Remember, the time limit for food in the danger zone is 4 hours. After that, throw it out. Your job is to practice safe food handling. Prevent cross-contamination from other sources. Limit the amount of time food must spend in the danger zone. Food that isn't being prepared or served should be stored properly. Start with utensils and surfaces that have been cleaned and sanitized. When you're done using them, clean and sanitize them again. Prepare foods in small amounts, called batch cooking. This is when you prepare only as much as you can use in 4 hours or less. Measure and record food temperatures regularly. Prepare food as close as you can to the time it will be served. Make sure to store it properly if you are working ahead. Use utensils to avoid touching raw food whenever possible. Wash your hands after each task, such as when you've been working with raw meat of any kind, taking out the garbage, or cleaning. and avoid touching food after it has been prepared for service. Thawing foods safely. Quick thawing method. Place the wrapped food in the prep sink under cold running water for no more than 2 hours. Afterward, clean and sanitize the sink and anything else the water may have touched. Never thaw foods on the counter at room temperature. That's the danger zone. Slow thawing method. Place frozen food, such as a roast, in the refrigerator away from other foods. The item should be covered with an impermeable barrier, such as a plastic bag, so that it is not able to contaminate any other foods or have any other foods contaminate it. Make sure to leave enough space around it for air to circulate. Depending on the size of the frozen food item, slow thawing may take up to 3 days. This is the safest method for thawing foods. Cooking method. Some foods, such as meat patties or seafood, are small enough to go straight into cooking while still frozen. Other foods have to be thawed. Microwave thawing method. Thaw food in a microwave oven only if it will then be cooked immediately. A matter of degrees. Temperature is the most important factor to prepare food in a safe way. Thermometers are used constantly in restaurants to measure the temperature of delivered foods, internal temperatures when cooking, temperatures of food during reheating, temperature of food during cooling, and cold holding and hot holding of foods. Food handlers must keep track of how long food stays in the danger zone, between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the temperature range when microorganisms can grow quickly and possibly lead to a foodborne illness. Regularly check temperatures of food that is being held. If cooked food stays in the danger zone for longer than 4 hours, throw it out. That goes for meats, vegetables, eggs, dairy, cooked beans and rice, or foods containing these ingredients. Reasons to halt food production. Refrigeration is out. If all refrigeration in the establishment is out or not holding temperature, food service should cease. Measure food temperatures with a metal stem thermometer. If they are 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, move foods immediately to another fridge if available. If not, keep its door shut. When the power comes back on, measure the food temperature again. If foods have moved into the danger zone, throw them out. Stove or oven stops working. Use approved methods to cool food that was cooking and refrigerate it. If cooked food in a defective hot holding station falls below 135 degrees Fahrenheit, throw it out. Hot water is off. No hot water equals no sanitation. Stop food service immediately. Major service interruptions. When facing issues with water, sewer, power, or heating, the best course is to close the restaurant until these essential services are restored. The right tools. 1. Bimetallic stem thermometers. A probe thermometer that is used to measure internal temperatures of food. Insert the lower third of its pointed metal stem into the food and read the circular gauge at the top. This thermometer should never be left in food that is cooking in an oven, microwave, or on a stove. Also, note that bimetallic stem thermometers are slower than probe-type thermometers and report an average temperature range instead of a more accurate temperature reported at the tip. Therefore, health inspectors generally prefer you to use another probe-type thermometer. 2. Thermocouple. Measures temperature electronically by inserting its probe into the food and reading its digital display. Probe thermometers must be small-tipped. 3. Time temperature indicator. It looks like a label on a food package. This thermometer contains liquid crystals that change color if it reaches an unsafe temperature, indicating whether the food has been in the danger zone. 4. Digital thermometers. Measure temperature by inserting the pointed metal tip into the food and reading the digital display on the handle. 5. Food-specific thermometers. Use this device to measure just one type of food. In other words, meat, deep-fried foods, candy, etc., and no other. 6. Equipment thermometers. Measure temperatures in ovens, refrigeration equipment, holding carts, and other cooking, storage, or serving equipment. Place refrigerator thermometers in a place where they are easy to read. Note: never use a mercury-based thermometer or a glass thermometer to measure foods. They could break and contaminate what you're measuring. Thermometer maintenance. You need to calibrate thermometers every day to make sure you're getting an accurate reading. Always calibrate a probe thermometer after it has been bumped or dropped. Thermometers must be cleaned and sanitized after each use. To calibrate a bimetal stem thermometer, place the probe in a clean container of half ice, half water. Make sure that the tip doesn't touch the bottom or the edge of the container. 30 seconds after the gauge needle stops moving, turn the calibration nut, located just below the gauge, until the needle reads 32 degrees Fahrenheit. This method doesn't always work for thermocouples and digital thermometers. If they require adjustment, try replacing the battery. If that doesn't work, tell your manager. The stem of a thermometer must be cleaned and sanitized before and after use. Never insert a dirty thermometer into food. Temperature logs. Your kitchen maintains a temperature logging system for tracking foods in the danger zone. Use it to record the temperature of the food, the time that temperature is taken, and anything unusual. For instance, if chilled foods rise above 41 degrees Fahrenheit, or if a thermometer calibrated using the ice water method is not reading the correct temperature. After logging it, inform your manager promptly. Correct readings. Probe thermometers are primarily used to measure the internal temperature of food. For most measurements, let the needle or readout stabilize for at least 15 seconds. Avoid touching the sensor probe against the sides or bottom of a container, which may be a different temperature than the food and give a false reading. Foods while cooking. Insert the sensor device into the center of the food and take a measurement in at least 2 places. Make sure the stem of the thermometer doesn't touch bone, which can give the wrong temperature. Small liquid containers. Open one container, a half pint of cream for example, in the batch and insert your thermometer. If the contents of that container can't be used immediately, throw it away. Soft, flexible bulk containers. Fold the container back on itself with the thermometer nestled in the fold, taking care not to penetrate the material. Frozen packages. Stack 2 frozen packages with the thermometer placed in between. Times and temperatures. The following chart shows the minimum internal cooking times and temperatures. Never serve undercooked poultry or pork. Follow these guidelines to kill germs while cooking. For turkey, chicken, and wild game, you must cook them to a minimum internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 1 second. For ground beef, ground pork, eggs that will not be consumed right away, and injected or mechanically tenderized meats, you must cook them to a minimum internal temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit for a minimum of 17 seconds. For whole intact beef, whole pork, seafood, and eggs that will be consumed right away, you must cook them to a minimum internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 seconds. Raw animal foods that are cooked in a microwave must be cooked to a minimum internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit, covered, rotated, or stirred, and allowed to stand for 2 minutes after cooking. Serving hot and cold foods. Food is sometimes served or stored in hot holding or cold holding stations. This is equipment that is designed to control temperature. When working with these holding stations, bring food to the holding station in a covered container. Use long-handled utensils instead of your hands to stir or move food. Utensils should be kept in the food, with the handle pointing away from the food, when not in use, or else placed in a container with drinkable running water. Keep containers covered whenever possible. Stir the food frequently to maintain even temperature and avoid hot or cold spots. Measure food temperatures by looking at the thermometer placed in the food, not just by reading the holding station's thermostat. Containers used in serving situations like salad bars and delis must be cleaned and sanitized at least every 24 hours. Note: do not mix new food with old. Instead, remove the container holding the old food and replace it with the container holding the new food. Holding foods. Holding cold foods. For cold holding, do not let food stand at room temperature because that will allow germs to grow. Store foods in a refrigerator, refrigerated display case, in ice, or other approved method. Always hold cold foods at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less. Fish, shellfish, poultry, milk, and red meat will stay safe longer if you cold hold them at or below 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Use a metal stem thermometer to check food in salad bars and in coolers. If you use ice to keep food cold on a salad bar or a food display, be sure that the ice comes up to the level of the food that is in the pan or the dish. Food must be colder than 41 degrees Fahrenheit when you put it in the ice. Cold food is held at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower to keep germs from growing. It should be measured for temperature using a probe thermometer at least every 4 hours. Make sure that the holding unit's lighting is far enough away from the food to keep from heating it. Don't mix new food with old. Holding hot foods. Preheat hot holding stations, such as steam tables, soup warmers, crock pots, and other heated surfaces, before placing food in them. Hot food is kept at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or higher and should be measured for temperature in more than one place using a metal stem thermometer at least every 2 hours. Make sure that it stays at the correct temperature throughout your shift. Hot foods must be at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or above before placing in a hot holding unit. After placing food on a steam table, stir regularly to avoid cold spots. If food in a hot holding station drops below 135 degrees Fahrenheit for an unknown amount of time, throw it away. If leftover food is reheated for hot holding, it must reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit in all parts of the food before being placed in the steam table. Cooling foods. Hot food that can't be served within 4 hours should be cooled and placed in refrigerated storage. State law requires that foods be chilled from 135 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours, and then dropped from 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 41 degrees Fahrenheit within 4 additional hours. In other words, hot foods must pass through the danger zone within a total of 6 hours to be considered safe. Cut it up. Cut large food items, like cooked meats, into smaller portions, place them in a covered container, and then place in the refrigerator. Make sure you allow cooked foods to cool to near room temperature before covering them and placing them in the refrigerator. Shallow pans. Pour thick foods, such as sauces and stews, into pre-chilled pans to a depth of no more than 2 inches. Place the pans in the top rack of the refrigerator, stirring regularly until chilled to 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, and then cover. Ice water bath. Chill pots of hot food, such as soup, by placing the pot in a larger container and surrounding the pot with ice. Stir the food frequently so that it chills evenly to 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder. Blast chiller. Place the pan of food in a blast chiller, if your workplace has one. Once food is cooled, move it to a larger, covered storage container. Note: never place a large pot of hot food in the refrigerator. It will raise the temperature inside the fridge into the danger zone, and the food in the pot will not cool quickly enough, allowing large amounts of bacteria to grow. Hot and prepared foods. If food does not cool from 135 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours, and from 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 41 degrees Fahrenheit within an additional 4 hours, don't save it. Throw it out. Foods that do cool properly and are ready for refrigeration should be labeled, listing the contents as well as the date and time prepared. Food that is cooked and then cooled may need to be heated again. When you must reheat food, do it very quickly, within 1 hour of dropping below 135 degrees Fahrenheit to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The right way to do this is on the stove burners or in microwave ovens, convection ovens, or double boilers. Do not use anything that will slowly heat food, because it may spend too much time in the danger zone. Stir the food to be sure that all parts of it are hot. Then use your metal stem thermometer to check the temperature. Reheat all previously cooked foods to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Reheating food. Reheat food only once using the stovetop, grill, or oven. Never use hot holding equipment, which cannot reheat food effectively enough to kill microorganisms. The reheated food should reach a temperature of at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit for a minimum of at least 15 seconds. Do not mix reheated food with fresh food. If food cannot be reheated within 2 hours, throw it out. Check the temperature of reheated food with a metal stem thermometer before serving. Lesson 5. Sanitation, Cleaning, and Maintenance. Introduction. In this lesson, you'll learn more about the difference between cleaning and sanitizing, when to clean or sanitize, how to use different cleaning and sanitizing tools, how to clean surfaces and equipment, and the correct way to handle spills. Cleaning versus sanitizing. It takes more than soap and water to keep a food business clean and safe. It also takes chemicals and care to use them the right way. You want to be safe, and you want to get the job done in a safe way for your customers. Some of the chemicals you will need are detergents and sanitizers. These help stop germs from spreading. Cleaning. Cleaning removes dirt, debris, stains, and spills. Use hot water, detergent, scrubbing or wiping implements, and clean water for rinsing. Sanitizing. Sanitizing is the process of reducing the number of microorganisms by using heat or chemicals on a clean surface. Dishes and equipment are sanitized to reduce bacteria to safe levels. To be effective, cleaning and sanitizing must be done in the correct order. Surfaces must first be cleaned and then rinsed before being sanitized. Sanitizing kills the microorganisms on a surface either with very hot water or a chemical solution. The correct way to manually clean dishes and utensils is pre-scrape, wash, rinse, sanitize, and then air dry. The 3-sink process. Before you can sanitize, you must always first wash and rinse. Manual cleaning and sanitizing uses a 3-sink process as follows. Sink 1. After pre-scraping and rinsing dishes and utensils, wash them in the first sink containing hot water and detergent. The water temperature must be a minimum of 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Sink 2. Rinse the clean dishes under clean hot water. Sink 3. Sanitize the dishes using a chemical solution. Chlorine-based sanitizers should be 50 to 100 parts per million, or ppm, concentration. Quaternary ammonium sanitizers are the most common in food service and are usually 100 to 150 ppm concentration. Submerge dishes in 75 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit sanitizing solution for at least 30 seconds. Alternatively, immersion in hot water can be used to sanitize dishes as long as the temperature of the water is at least 171 degrees Fahrenheit and dishes remain submerged for at least 30 seconds. No chemical sanitizer is required if the hot water immersion method is used. Drying. Set the items in a strainer to air dry. Do not use a towel for drying. The 2-sink process. A 3-compartment sink may not always be practical. You may find 2-compartment sinks in small kitchens with limited space. For example, a mobile food truck may only use 2 sinks for washing dishes. You must limit the number of items that are washed at one time if you are using a 2-compartment sink, and sanitizing solutions must be made right before you begin and drained right after you finish. Approval must be given by your local health authority before a 2-compartment sink can be used in a food establishment. There is more than one way to correctly clean and sanitize dishes using a 2-compartment sink, so check with your manager or local health authority if you are uncertain about the procedure you are using. Sink 1. After pre-scraping dishes and utensils, wash and rinse them in the first sink containing hot water and detergent. The water temperature must be a minimum of 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Sink 2. Sanitize the dishes using a chemical solution or immersion in hot water. Chlorine-based sanitizers should be 50 to 100 parts per million, or ppm, concentration. Quaternary ammonium sanitizers are the most common in food service and are usually 100 to 150 ppm concentration. If using chemical sanitizers, submerge dishes in 75 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit sanitizing solution for at least 30 seconds. Alternatively, immersion in hot water can be used to sanitize dishes as long as the temperature of the water is at least 171 degrees Fahrenheit and dishes remain submerged for at least 30 seconds. No chemical sanitizer is required if the hot water immersion method is used. Drying. Set the items in a strainer to air dry. Do not use a towel for drying. Using the dishwasher. A mechanical dishwasher can use chemicals to sanitize or heats water to sanitizing temperature. Utensils and surfaces that come into contact with raw meat, knives and cutting boards, for example, should always go through the dishwasher. Place rinsed, scraped, and pre-soaked dishes and utensils in the rack so that all sides will be cleaned and excess water will drain away. Run the machine according to manufacturer's directions. Dishwashers that do not use chemical sanitizers can heat water up to 194 degrees Fahrenheit for the sanitizing rinse, but not less than 165 degrees Fahrenheit for stationary rack single temperature dishwashers, and 180 degrees Fahrenheit for all other types of mechanical dishwashers. Temperatures of 195 degrees Fahrenheit and above can bake food particles onto dishes and utensils. Machines that use chemical sanitizers operate at lower temperatures, usually around 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and use chlorine or other chemicals injected into the final rinse. Even though machines are considered automatic, their efficiency depends on the person operating the machine. Allow dishes to air dry. Drying agents may be used to speed up this process, but they must be FDA approved. Information about manual cleaning. Cleaning equipment. Scrub, rinse, and sanitize cutting boards, knives, and other utensils after each task to avoid cross-contamination. Wash, rinse with clear, clean water, and then sanitize slicers and food processors after each task. Cleaning electrical equipment and utensils. Unplug first. Wash equipment surfaces using soapy water, then rinse with clean water, and finally sanitize with a chemical solution after each task. Take out removable parts, cleaning and sanitizing each one of them before setting them aside to air dry. Reassemble the equipment, washing and sanitizing any surfaces you may have touched. Testing and using sanitizing solutions. Use special test strips to measure the strength of your sanitizing solution. For bleach and chlorine solutions, the test strip should turn blue. That indicates a 50 to 100 parts per million, or ppm concentration of chlorine, which is ideal for proper strength to kill germs. Less than 50 ppm is too weak. More than 100 ppm is too strong and could make people sick. Note: sanitizing solutions will not adequately kill germs when they are dirty or diluted, even if they smell strong. Mix up a fresh solution, then test it for strength. Using wiping cloths. Use separate wiping cloths for cleaning surfaces that come into contact with food, such as equipment, prep tables, or cutting boards, and do not come into contact with food, such as floors, walls, or countertops. When in use, each type of wiping cloth is stored in its own separate bucket containing sanitizing solution. The process for using wiping cloths is outlined below. 1. Prepare a sanitizing solution in a bucket and check the concentration using a test strip. 2. Take a clean wiping cloth and place it in the bucket of sanitizing solution. 3. Use the cloth to wipe down surfaces that need to be cleaned. 4. Place the cloth back in the bucket of sanitizing solution when it is not actively being used to clean. 5. Make sure to test the strength of the sanitizing solution periodically to make sure it remains concentrated enough to kill microorganisms. You can add more sanitizer if the solution is too weakly concentrated. 6. When you finish your cleaning task, dispose of the sanitizing solution in a sink that is not used for hand washing or food preparation. You should also dispose of sanitizing solution that has become cloudy. 7. Wiping cloths that have been used to clean a surface should be properly laundered before using them again. Always use a fresh or sanitized cloth for each cleanup task. Cleaning and storage. Cleaning up spills. Spills on the floor are a workplace hazard that must be cleaned up immediately. Make sure to read your company policy for cleaning up after sick people. Tell people to avoid the area of the spill. Use a mop and bucket containing the correct cleaning solution. Follow the directions for proper use and remove any remaining moisture. Post warning signs or cones to divert floor traffic until the spill side is dry. Put cleaning supplies away properly and wash hands before returning to work. Chemical storage. Cleaners and other non-food items are always stored separately from foods by using separate shelves, cupboards, and sometimes even separate rooms. Never store food in chemical containers and never store chemicals in food containers. Chemicals should be kept in their original packaging or in other unbreakable, clearly labeled containers. When using chemicals, follow the handling instructions contained in the safety data sheets, or SDS, that should be available in your workplace. Chemicals should be kept away from food handling areas. If chemicals come into contact with food, throw the food away. Store chemicals below and away from food and utensils. Clean up all spills immediately, then wash your hands. If needed, change into fresh clothes. Pest control and garbage. When it comes to handling waste in a food establishment, you don't store garbage inside the establishment. When a trash can in your work area is full or has an objectionable odor, you should move it promptly out of the food preparation area to the waste container outside. Make sure that doors and external windows keep out pests such as flies and rats. You should not allow food or other waste to gather in food areas. Keep the storage area clean. Arrange for garbage to be removed regularly. Close garbage containers with a tight-fitting lid. The use of pesticides in food establishments is restricted. Only licensed pest control personnel are allowed to use them. Pesticides are not allowed to be stored in a food establishment. Make sure to report any pest you see in a food establishment to your manager. Proper disposal of garbage. Place garbage in sturdy, leak-proof containers, plastic or metal, with tight-fitting lids. The containers should be lined with plastic bags or with wet-strength paper. Clean and sanitize garbage containers frequently to prevent odor and keep from attracting insects and other pests. After any kind of garbage duty, make sure to wash your hands. Mobile and temporary food establishments. While mobile food establishments are almost exclusively operated by those with a food manager certification, it is common for a food handler to work at a temporary food establishment, such as a festival, fair, or farmer's market. Mobile and temporary food establishments still require the same level of caution and safety as any food establishment and fall under the same laws as brick-and-mortar establishments. If you are working at a temporary food establishment, make sure to check with management regarding any special procedures that are allowed, such as using a 2-compartment sink. Lesson 6. Employee Health Status. Introduction. In this lesson, you'll learn more about exclusions and restrictions, when to work and when not to work, foodborne illnesses, and how to handle minor cuts and burns. Public health. Foodborne illness has a big effect on public health. Going to work when you are sick puts your coworkers and your customers at risk. Reportable foodborne illnesses. The following illnesses are the big 6. Any diagnosis of a food employee with one of these illnesses must be reported to the health department by the person in charge. Non-typhoidal salmonella. Typhoid fever, caused by Salmonella typhi. Shigella. E. coli 0157H7. Hepatitis A virus. And norovirus. In addition to the pathogens listed above, Entamoeba histolytica is another serious foodborne illness. In fact, the state of California requires cases of Entamoeba histolytica to be reported to the health department. To protect against the transmission of these serious foodborne illnesses to the customers or fellow workers, you must be excluded until cleared by a physician to return to work. Excluded or restricted. You must be excluded from a food establishment if a doctor diagnoses you with one of the big 6 illnesses, or if you are experiencing symptoms like vomiting, diarrhea, or jaundice, as these symptoms are common with foodborne illness. Excluded means you cannot go to work. Restricted duties. There may be times when you can still go to work, but you cannot work with food. For example, if you have allergies. A food employee who is restricted can only perform tasks that pose no risk of transmitting a foodborne illness and cannot work with exposed food, clean equipment, utensils, linens, or unwrapped single-use items. Restricted means you cannot work with food. Your manager will ultimately decide if you can work or not. Reporting your health. As a food employee, you have a responsibility to inform your employer if you think you may be sick. Don't be a hero. Contact your supervisor immediately if you have been diagnosed with one of the big 6 foodborne illnesses, or if you are experiencing symptoms that could be caused by foodborne illness, like vomiting, diarrhea, jaundice, or a sore throat with a fever. If you work in an establishment that serves a highly susceptible population, or HSP, such as young children or the elderly, then you must be excluded if you are experiencing a sore throat with a fever. However, if you work in an establishment that does not serve HSPs, you may still be able to go to work on a restricted basis. If you have an open cut, wound, or pustular boil, regardless of whether or not it is infected, you may still handle food if the wound is covered with a water-resistant bandage and a glove. Note: if your supervisor clears you for work but you're taking medication, store it in your locker or another safe place away from food. Treating injuries. Inform your supervisor of any injuries. If an infection has not occurred, you may be reassigned to a job that doesn't involve handling food. For example, cleaning or working with money. You can usually tell when an injury is infected because it will be inflamed, red around the wound, or have pus. If you receive a minor burn, you should apply cool running water to the affected area. Do not handle food if you have an uncovered infected cut, burn, or sore. If the injury is not infected or is properly covered with a waterproof bandage and glove, you may be cleared to handle food. You must wash your hands, keep the injury clean and bandaged, and wear single-use gloves or some other type of impermeable cover over the affected area. First aid supplies should be stored in a kit or container and located in an area that prevents contamination of food.